today is we're going to start from AI, sensors, and developments around there, then get into entrepreneurship these days, the investment environment these days, and then go into what we can do to do better altogether. So please come with me on that journey. So with that, I want to start with introduction of my amazing, amazing panel. Entrepreneurs to my right, and the investors to my left, and academic who has worked in this area a lot. So Debbie, do you want to get us started with your introduction?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Debbie Chen, and I'm the founder and CEO of Hydrostasis. My background is in biomedical engineering and developing optical devices for the past 20-ish years. I'm super passionate about wellness and wearables, so I'm excited to talk about my experience today.
Thank you, Deb. Caroline?
Hi, I'm Catherine Liao. I'm now the Chief Strategy Officer for a company called CardiX. Previously, I was a co-founder and CEO of a wearable startup developing a sensor for cuffless blood pressure monitoring. My background is in systems engineering, turned health economist, believe it or not. And my day-to-day now is thinking about how do we solve for healthcare problems and find money to fund it.
Thank you, Catherine. Sorry about the mix-up. Caroline.
I'm Carolyn Samard, and I'm the Dean of Northeastern University in Silicon Valley. And so my background is really in higher education. My research as a social scientist has focused on technical communities, social networks, and I've done a lot of work on the advancement of women in technology.
Thank you. And Ari?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ori Cifuentes. I'm an investor at How Women Invest. We are a fund focused on funding female founders, seed to Series B. Prior to joining How Women Invest, I was actually on the accelerator side of things, working in Sunnyvale for Plug and Play. So have seen a plethora of startups, early and exciting, so excited to dig in.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Clara Chang, founding partner at Ignite XL Ventures. We are a global seed fund investing in beauty, health and wellness, and longevity. Prior to that, I was an operator running an accelerator for early stage founders for close to about 10 years. And we have a particular expertise around cross-border investments. So we connect a lot with entrepreneurs from Asia, as well as Europe and LATAM as well.
Thank you, everyone. As you know, AI used to be mostly in the cloud doing, processing digital data. And now we're talking more and more about physical AI and getting to what some people call edge AI or on-device AI. Can you talk to us about the technologies, both in terms of the sensing elements, but also in terms of the processing that could be done on the sensor? We start with Debbie.
Yeah, so for us, we develop a wearable. I'm wearing one right now. Basically, a lot of the algorithms that we've been developing, originally, we were only on the cloud. And so that limited us to specific use cases where you can be connected to the cloud. And now a lot of the use cases that we're exploring potentially either for security reasons or for other reasons do not have good cloud access. And so all of this algorithms that we're developing are now getting smaller, faster, more powerful, and into the edge device, which is really super exciting. So all these companies out here, I'm super excited to see the developments of these new generative AI algorithms to be more powerful and also smaller and more portable. So.
And Debbie, can you talk a little bit about your sensor that you were?
Yeah, so we develop hydration sensors. So right now, we have a tagline at Hydrostasis that hydration is a vital sign. And what we mean by that is, for heart rate, pulse ox, blood pressure, for example, we all know sort of what healthy range is and what unhealthy range is. But for hydration, it's really hard to tell because there's really no standard of care. So right now it's sort of like, oh, if your urine is brown, that's bad, right? or if you end up gaining a lot of weight in a very short amount of time, usually there's edema, things like that. And so what we've done is basically brought it into a wearable. We're looking at hydration, water-specific molecules, and then also giving you a real-time indication of your hydration status and how much you should drink at that moment. So it's user profile-based as well as real-time signal-based.
Great, thank you.
I need
Catherine.
one.
So tell us about the latest that you see in sensing, both in terms of the actual sensing and then also processing that could be done on the sensor.
Yeah, so I'm certainly really excited about environmental sensing and then the whole notion of that we can actually detect physical movements and interpret them and what is happening. And part of the work that we touched on with my prior startup, we were using radar to detect arterial pulsation in the body and then be able to extract a physiological signal from it. However, while doing that investigation work, we were also looking at in-room sensing, what can you actually do from a vital signs perspective, just with someone that's in the room and be able to detect more. And so I think there's a lot that can be done in that space. And as technology evolve, and we can see that. I don't think we have really seen that many things come to light outside of respiration sensing and some sort of sleep sensing, but I think there's more to come. And then combined, part of that will be enabled by edge compute capabilities, because using something like radar, there's actually a lot of information that you have to distill down into something simple. And that's not something that's very easily done in the cloud, because you're not going to move that much data in the cloud and have information come back. And so what edge compute really allows us to do is take complicated sensor data and distill down that very simply. Now, then we still have to solve for, okay, so what do we do then? But I think that's the direction that we are going to.
I want to start with Claire on this one. So in terms of the deal flow that you see, tell us about the companies that involve sensors in their solutions, or how they get invested.
Right. As a consumer tech investor, this whole, in health and wellness, I think we're really in an exciting time. As we all know, we're already tracking so much of our activities through Apple Watch to our Ring, our sleep data. And I think it's going to continue to get better. I mean, I was recently wearing CGM just to see what food will spike, create spike sugar level in my body, as well as, of course, Debbie's Hydrostasis is one of our portfolio company where I didn't believe that I was dehydrated, right? I'm thinking I'm a pretty healthy person. I drink water all the time. But until I started wearing Gecko Watch from Hydrostasis, and it kept telling me that, I was dehydrated. And I actually texted Debbie, and I think this is broken, because I just didn't believe it until I finally realized that I was grossly dehydrated. And so I think many of us walk around thinking that we're pretty healthy, but when you have actual data telling you what your current condition is, I think it's going to be really an impactful on consumer behavior change, because there's nothing like your own personal data telling you what you're eating is actually bad for you, or you're not drinking enough. And I think that is really going to impact consumer behavior change. And that's why I think it's really exciting time for us. So we're seeing innovation all the way from a skin analysis that can actually take your skin and do skin moisture level, to the pigmentation, to also in women's health, to even just, in the longevity space as well. So all across different spectrum of health and wellness applications, we're seeing AI and sensor being applied.
And just an advice on drinking. Did you say something about when we were prepping for this session? Maybe that's an advice that you can share with the rest of us.
Oh, that's right. So I think this is actually advice from Debbie. When you wake up in the morning, and I tell this to everybody, my family members, even though they think that I'm just saying this all the time, but drinking a tall glass of water is one thing that you can do for your body every morning, right? And that's actually an advice from Debbie.
And
but I now
a glass
do really
of water, it's bottoms up.
That's right. It's bottoms up, not just sipping, because sipping will not do. So every time I drink a water, I just basically drink the whole glass, even at a restaurant. And then the waiters are always constantly coming and refilling my glass because every time I see it, I just drink it, right?
Thank you. So Ari, what do you see in terms of your deal flow with respect to products that have sensors in them and your interest in investing in them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I feel like every week we get a new pitch deck with some sort of really fantastic sensor technology. I think lately a couple companies came out with a different way to track hormones. And so there's a lot of fantastic research that we'll get to that section as well, where it's saying different hormone levels, especially for women throughout the day, can be really great indicators of, when to optimize what you eat, how you sleep, most productive time to do work. I think another area that's really exciting is, I'm sure all of us go into Sephora or Kohl's. There's a lot of excitement around the retail space for sensors. We're moving beyond just simple RFID tags on clothing. I think if you go into Uniqlo today, you can drop something in their basket and it'll automatically calculate how much items you have. I think that's the tip of the iceberg. I think applications are going to get much more exciting to the point that they'll also be able to tie into advertising data. For example, you're walking into the store, you've never walked in before, you have no idea where anything is, but you came in for a pair of socks. Wouldn't it be great to see something pop up on a screen and actually point you to where that section is, save you time, and by the way, the sales reps can now focus on other customers who, won't want a screen, will want that direct human contact. So I think between health, consumer, retail, I think advertising also has some really exciting applications where we can start personalizing. I almost think it's the 3.0. We were already getting pretty personal, but I think to actually enable the consumer to make just better buying decisions and give that back to folks who can help us make those decisions.
I think it's like basically translating how do you translate the online experience to the physical in-store experience with the sensor, right?
Exactly. I think it's kind of that middle ground. I think we'll all have tabs open on our phones, but we might not know the stores or we might not know the closest store, and really kind of connecting that paradigm shift.
That's excellent. I would love to just go into store, get what I want, and be out. So Caroline, you are in the university environment, and you see a lot of technologies come from the university, and they want to make it to the market. So what's your view on what kind of sensing or what is the flow, if you will?
Yeah, so I think of that flow as really multidirectional. So our university is extremely good on partnering with industry and trying to embed industry perspectives in everything we do. So from the classroom to student projects to the big research questions. And that active exchange helps you as a researcher really think through what's the right research question to answer right now. So before a product gets to the VC pitch or the market, often there was an academic several years ago asking a specific question, right, that may have seen long term. I have lots of friends who did their PhD in machine learning who right now are having a lot of impact, but they said 20 years ago when they started their research in that area, everyone said, oh, that's so weird, this is going nowhere, who knows what impact you can really have with that, right? So academia is a place where you can really explore those kind of big long-term ideas. And the beauty of a place like the Bay Area and Silicon Valley is that we know, especially the technical community knows that the next big startup idea can start as a student project. There are various examples. So one thriving area of collaboration around sensors is the Nanoscience Institute. And it has a strong presence in the Bay Area on our Oakland campus and our own Silicon Valley campus, and has a very active kind of corporate affiliate program where companies can bring their questions, their projects, their ideas to really fuel the R&D cycle of our engineering faculty. So that's an example.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. I want to switch the topic a little bit to the entrepreneurship and investing. And I'll go to my entrepreneurs to my right. So Debbie, if you look into like the last 2-3 years, has the entrepreneurship environment changed? Like if I look at the numbers, in terms of investing in 2024 versus 2025 even, I see a lot more is going into the AI. So like in 2024, it was around 45-ish%, and now it's, even in the first quarter of 2025, it's 71%. How do you see that? Like, and how does that impact your next rounds of funding?
Yeah, well, as a female founder, we don't actually follow the trends. Like if you look at, TechCrunch or Carta trends, and so to me, it kind of is the same. And so, it's exciting because obviously, we do have AI algorithms, although we're not an AI company, so we're not enjoying this big boom here. But yeah, I think, as especially a female entrepreneur, I think the name of the game is just keep going and keep building. Talking to the folks that really already get what you're doing, because the trends will come and go. At one point, hydration was awesome because everybody had a Stanley Cup, right? And then now there was some issue with the Stanley Cup. I don't know. And so now, today is AI, tomorrow is going to be something else. And so just, my advice is just to keep going, build the thing that you're passionate about, wake up every day loving what you do. And it may or may not work out, right? Like the startup world is very challenging, but to me, it's worth it.
And did you have a Stanley Cup branded wristband at one point?
No, I did not.
I think
But
I
Stanley,
missed that
if you're
trend.
watching, you know where to find me.
Funding, based on funding available, right? Okay. Catherine, what do you see in terms of any changes in entrepreneurship?
I'm totally in agreement with Betty. Well, Debbie. Before AI, it was crypto, right? Before crypto, it was SaaS. Actually, there's somewhere between. To me, it's kind of like Gartner hype cycle. There will be a new hype. There will be and there will be new participants in those hype. But as entrepreneurs, we are building something for a reason, because there's a problem that's worth solving, and there are customers that want the problem to be solved. Then when we focus on that, focusing on delivering that solution, that's how we build business. Investment is not for investment's sake. Investment is to build a business that can thrive and that then can generate wealth for people that are involved. And so when you are following trend, you're not going to go anywhere, because there'll be a new trend tomorrow. But if you're really solving for the problem that you're passionate about, that's what really sustains longevity. And also, entrepreneurship sucks. It's hard and it's rewarding, but to maintain that grit, you really have to find meaning in the work that you do.
Well said. Now, if you look at the trends around the number of investments and the size of the investments, right? I see a huge change. Like in Q1 of 2023, over 3,300 deals took in about just under $50 billion. And in Q1 of this year, over 1,300 deals took more than $80 billion. So there are a lot of mega rounds. So the number, the total number of investment is lower, but the amount is higher. So can you talk about that, and how is that impacting the way you invest or not?
It's really not impacting us because we are pre-seed investors, so we're really going in early, and also because we're in the consumer tech, which is consumer tech right now. Consumer and consumer tech is kind of the dirty word within the investor community. Nobody wants to touch consumer. So we're probably less impacted. I think all the mega funding is going to these, enterprise AI solutions and infrastructures and whatnot. So we're probably somewhat insulated. But I think also the fact that I think investors, just like human nature is to invest in things that we're familiar with and that we understand. And when you look at the overall VC landscape, 95% of the check writers still today in 2025 is still predominantly male. And so what does that mean for, again, impacting female entrepreneurs? female entrepreneurs, of course, also not tend to, but they may be doing things that a lot of the male investors may not understand, and so then they don't understand the opportunity. So it's sort of this vicious cycle that happens, right? Especially, I think, for us, when we look at like skin health, because we invest in beauty, right? And then, so many of female entrepreneurs have come to us saying, like, we have such frustration because, male investors do not understand the solutions that they're building, even though the opportunity is massive. So I think there's that huge gap that exists. And gender, does matter. Female investors are 3 times more likely to invest in female entrepreneurs. We just communicate differently, right? Also, I know Debbie and I'm sure Catherine also have experienced this personally themselves when raising, that it is definitely hard, but then it is even harder for female entrepreneurs.
Now, you talked about consumer tech and just hardware in general. I know the hardware used to be very uninvestable, but now maybe with AI infrastructure, it's a little more investable, but maybe not in the areas that you're looking at. So do you see any changes in terms of investment interest in hardware devices in general, or is it pretty much the same?
I mean, I can only speak for myself. I think the hardware is just hard. I think we all agreed, right? The unit economics, I think, over time just continues to go down, and so I think it's hard. So unless you have a software that really can have a sustainable business model, it's really hard. But at the same time, for us as a consumer tech looking at health and wellness, especially with sensor technology becoming better and better, more advanced, and even the size of the sensors being able to apply to this kind of ring, and now we're talking about not just collecting our sleep data, but there's a ton of other data that can, that different types of sensor can be integrated into a ring, right? So I think the opportunity, the potential is absolutely there. And I think the cost of building something like this also is going down. So to the extent that it's accessible to mass consumers, I think hardware definitely can be a really exciting opportunity, investment opportunity for us.
Excellent. So Ari, what kinds of trends do you see in your investing world? Whether it be early stage, whether it be hardware, software, AI, anything that you see that either helps or hinders you?
Totally. I think something that I'm noticing quite a bit, also looking at more earlier stage, so seed, even Series A, still feeling a little early, is that founders are getting very capital efficient. And I think it's a bit ironic because there's actually research that female founders literally have been capital efficient from the get-go, right? They raise less, thus they're trying to go farther with the less capital that they have. And in general, women, I think we can all think of a woman in our lives, right? Very, very mindful, right? What goes in, what goes out. So that applies to scaling a company as well. But I think an interesting trend that I'm seeing is this term seed strapping. So meaning, as Azita mentioned, the data, right? Raising a big seed round and then seeing how far that round can go and saying, actually, if I get profitable, I might not raise another round. And this isn't a new concept. I think VC is also very cyclical. This happened in the dot-com era as well, when folks got very lucky, did some great rounds with great timing, and then realized, hey, I hit profitability, cash flow positive. Let's see how far I can go with this. And for the founders, they're thinking about it in terms of dilution. So I know our entrepreneurs on stage mentioned as well the outcomes, right? You're not just building a company for the sake of building a company. I think you're also thinking about the folks that you're hiring, the folks at the cap table, and also even more downstream, the potential acquirers or strategics that will get involved. So I think this concept is exciting. I think it's also part of the dynamic that because it's taking longer on average, actually 2 months longer to close a round of funding in this environment, founders are being very mindful that, okay, if they spent that time fundraising versus selling or building, there's now an even larger opportunity cost. With also the landscape that we just covered, competition is getting much more dynamic. the next hype cycle is around the corner. So I think founders at this point, they're being very upfront, at least with us as investors, and saying, listen, this might be the last money in. Look at how that impacts your fund economics and your model. And politely, I think good for them. If they have a seat at the table and they're able to kind of call those table stakes, I think as a whole, folks have been talking about the bubble that's been happening. I think there's definitely outliers. I mean, look at Mira Murati's latest round, right? Congrats to her, $2 billion on a $10 billion valuation. That is definitely a landmark.
And supposedly a stealth idea. So they don't even know.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Exactly. Talk about, pre-product, right? But I mentioned Mira because it's Exhibit A. At the earliest stages, we're betting on the team. And I think for female founders, when they come with that conviction and that story, I think we will be seeing a lot more Miras. And it's just a matter of level setting with the funds and truthfully where the founders see their company going, right? Not every company, I've talked to quite a few founders, they're not trying to get to an IPO, right? That's not really their end goal, but their distribution might come in some other way and they'll still be having a very, very large impact.
Thanks, Ari. So Caroline,
I want to pick up on what you were saying on investing as a bet, right? And the decision of investing, especially in an environment where there's a scarcity of capital or it's more concentrated. Research shows that when the situation is perceived as more ambiguous or risky, which is venture capital by any other name, we're more likely to resort to bias in decision making. So it becomes highly probable that we'll go with somebody who fits maybe instantly the stereotype of success. In Silicon Valley, that means often a young man, often white, maybe with a partial Stanford degree, right? And so these are like kind of very narrow stereotypes, and they tend to be more likely when we are in higher-risk decision-making situations. And then something called third-order inference bias occurs, where if it's very risky, we also want to make sure other people around us will agree with our decision, right? So it's like, oh no, I need to explain to her why I picked this entrepreneur. It feels a little more secure to go with the person who fits the stereotype of success. We leave so much innovation on the table. I know a company that's doing really well right now who's in the menopause treatment market, and they were told by VCs, well, that's a niche. It's never going to have an impact. Well, half the population in the world goes through menopause. I think that's a pretty big market, right? So we leave a lot on the table with our narrow definitions.
Another comment that we make on the menopause is that fertility is a choice, oftentimes, whereas menopause is not. It's every woman, female, and I understand men also go through menopause in different ways, but we all go through it.
Excellent. Thanks, Caroline, for that, and Claire for. So let's just go, even though we started touching upon that, but let's go deep into women-founded startups and your perspective from a founder level. I know you've both been doing this for several years now, but how has that impacted you so far? How do you see your next rounds coming, where you think maybe you need to do things differently for the next round? And some of the statistics, I mentioned the 2.1% of all funding goes to women-founded startups in 2023, and that number has only gone to 2.3%. But if they add a man to the founding team, that number goes up to 14-point-something%. But just in general, like, how do you look at from your lens, things have changed or not changed, or it's the same? Let's start with you this time,
Okay.
Catherine.
Yeah. I don't have a lot to comment from a next funding round perspective because I'm now in an operating role and really looking at focusing on building the company. But what I can share is first of all, I'm blessed to have been an entrepreneur in the time that we live in today. I have a lot of peers, I have a lot of role models I can look to and learn from, and I feel incredibly fortunate to be in that role now compared to maybe 20 years ago, right? If you look at the entrepreneurs then. And while it's tough, I don't really see it as a gender thing. Yes, I have been in a room with a tier one Sand Hill VC where I'm the CEO. He asked a question, and then he looked to my co-founder, CTO, who's a man, for answer, and then I would answer because it's a CEO question. He will ask another question again, and then he will go ask for my co-founder, look for my co-founder for an answer. We've been there. We are not going to necessarily change that, but what we can do is really focusing on building a company that is worth working for. One thing that I do know that female founders and leaders do is that they develop their people. And as a result, we build a better environment that people want to work in, therefore greater productivity, probably faster time to market, and be able to build success that way. Probably don't look at venture fundraising rounds as a metric of success, but instead it's really focusing on, do we get to the milestone? How are those companies doing as a result? And also sustainability, because it does take, yes, earlier I said entrepreneurship sucks, but you know what? I love it because it's
If you can do
so
that, you
much
can do
fun.
anything.
Well, no, it's just really, it's fun. You are challenged in such a way that you don't really get to in a day job, realistically. And so I very much encourage people, when you have an idea, pursue it, and also have take the risk to do so and be okay with failure. I think oftentimes that women are not necessarily as good and comfortable with that. So if we can kind of look at starting something, go try, and it's okay if you fail. Just starting from that, I think we can actually elevate the narrative a lot more. Then people will found companies, and they will be more open to investing when they accept the failure.
Great.
Sorry, that
points.
was long.
No, that was great. Debbie, since the first time you raise funds is always hard because you're an unproven entrepreneur, but now that you've done it, are the next rounds easier, or is it just as hard?
Should I just laugh? Ha 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 ha. No.
Trick question.
Yeah. They're not easier because the metrics change, right? So the milestones change. And in fact, they could be harder because you have to get to that next step. Period. That was the end of the answer. It is not easier. But I just wanted to just echo what Catherine was saying, is that, as a woman founder, we actually approach founding a company and sort of shepherding our people differently. And so I always tell folks, like, a lot of my successes as a founder and as a leader, I can't write in an investor update. Maybe an investor like Claire would care. But there's, personal stories where, we've really helped some of our folks, and I can talk to you offline, but, and it's just dear to my heart, and I'm so happy that I'm in this position that I can help, folks. And again, you can't write that into an investor report. And so I think there's just should be more women founders, women investors that invest into us. And I didn't grow up in Silicon Valley. I didn't go to Stanford. I don't have an MBA. I was an academic by training, and I kind of just got pulled into entrepreneurship. And I love it as well. But I really relied on these mentors. Claire is one of my mentors, and there was a really terrible time in 2023 where she called me every single day for 2 weeks. And I was like, Claire, she's an investor, so I'm like, yes, I will meet with you. But I had nothing to say because I just talked to you yesterday. But all she wanted to do was make sure I was okay in this terrible time. And so, as a mentor, if you're mentoring folks or if you are looking to start a company, find those mentors. That's my advice.
And if I can just add one more thing, the challenges that we face, my male counterparts that are founders in similar industries, they have the same challenges too. I do think at the end of the day, just entrepreneurship, creating something, creating new market, especially if it's something that's really innovative that people don't really know. Everyone has that same challenge, gender aside as well.
Do you think that being a woman founder, you're less prone to asking for support? Like in your case, you didn't ask for support. Claire was kind enough to offer it. But if you did need support, would you ask for it, or would you see that as a sign of weakness because they already.
Yeah, I would say that's also a cultural question, right? Like Asian people don't ask for help. It's just a cultural thing. But also for women, yes. And so you really have to get over it. I didn't have an MBA, I didn't go to Stanford, I didn't grow up in Silicon Valley. I knew nothing about venture capital when I first started, and all of that was just trial by fire. And again, I was very lucky to have a few really good mentors where I could just break down and cry and tell them I had no idea what I was doing. And then they would just pat me on the shoulder and then we'd start again, right? And so, yeah, it's difficult. And also, again, for male founders, it's also hard to ask for help. And so I think for everybody, nobody knows everything. Investors also don't know everything. And so you just kind of have to, make sure to look at your network and see who you can ask for help and find those people.
And Catherine's. Any
Agree
comments
100%.
on that?
No, I agree 100%. I was just thinking the investors also don't know anything. That's why the third order inference comes in, right? You need that validation because you don't know, so that makes it a little more difficult. But yeah, from asking, I think I've been really fortunate where that I've had a good group of mentors, and I'm really annoying. I would just kind of, if I grab onto you, I will call you and get everything I can out of you, because that's what mentors are for. So find mentors, be open to ask questions. We don't know anything. You don't know everything. And that's actually how we grow and learn. And I think that's probably the biggest learnings and what I feel the most fortunate about is just having those mentors I can call on. And I've always said that I am who I am because, frankly, of middle-aged white men who let me stand on their shoulders as I develop and grow. And women too, but they're being
Mostly.
Silicon Valley, yeah.
Thanks for the honest and transparent feedback there. Going to Claire, since you supported your entrepreneur without necessarily her asking for it, could you talk about how do you see people that might need your checking in, even if not offering support, but just to making sure that you're giving them the encouragement and the support to move forward? And it could be for women or men founders.
Right. No, our portfolio, we have, out of Fund 1, we have 30 companies, and 53% of the founders are female founded companies. So we have, of course, mixed male as well as female founders. Early stage, being an early stage investor, really it's all about people. We're really investing in people. And for us to be successful as an investor to return capital to our LPs, we have to make sure that our founders are okay, that they're thriving. And so it's my job as an investor to make sure that our founders doing okay. So number one, really treating them as human beings rather than just this machine that's going to scale the business, right? So I think that's really at the core of how we view our founders. Us as investors, as a supporter, and really the champion to support our founders. We also have an interesting program in place, which we do out of our own management fee, is to provide executive coaching, leadership coaching for all of our founders, because again, we recognize that the entrepreneurship is such a roller coaster ride. There's so many things that's happening at work, but also managing personal, especially female founders, dealing with family matters and whatnot. And so really learning how to really build yourself as an individual, as a leader, is really critically important. And for us, that's de-risking our investment, right? And so we provide this leadership coaching for our founders. And then really when we check in with our founders, quarterly basis as sort of a regular, but also as often as need, really the first question we always is, how are you doing? How are you doing, like as in you as an individual? I think is really how we start.
That's great. Ari, similar question for supporting since you do How Women Invest, you're supporting your founders, whether it be men or women, and is it different?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I would say for us, 100% of our portfolio is female-founded, female-led. That said, I think it's an ecosystem-based approach. So even when we meet a female founder, and let's say she has a male co-founder, we still want to get to know her. We still want to introduce her to other investors. At the end of the day, we all win when more women get funded. And I would say in terms of support, we also have a nonprofit that's a sister organization called How Women Lead. So we have a ton of programming on landing your first board seat, investing for the first time, either in venture or as an angel. And so we offer that up to our founders as well. We give them a little credit when we make an investment because, yes, these courses have a price tag, obviously, for the average person, joining our organization, but not for our founders. We want them to be able to access a lot of the hybrid content. You can access it online. We know they're on the road. Yes, we live in Silicon Valley. We love hosting things in person, but as a founder, that's not always feasible to get down to Palo Alto or San Francisco. So we try to meet our founders where they are. And I think even when they're not portfolio companies, we want to be seen as an ecosystem builder and connecting the dots, especially. The last thing I'll say is we launched an initiative called the New Table. So this is 10,000 women investing in venture for the first time. And founders get excited because they're like, wait, you have a whole tool to help me discover who these people investing in female founders are? And it's like, yes, we do. We've vetted over 50 VCs who've literally raised their hand and said, we're supporting these women and we want to fund more of them. And so we're doing a lot. It might sound like initiatives on the side, but they're core components of just the future we want to see.
Great, thank you so much. I'm going to go to my last question, and I'm going to start with you, Caroline. Given the fact that we have numbers that we have to work on, right? We have to make sure that all the founders are involved. And I know we have engineers, designers, developers, investors in the audience, and people that will watch this later. What would be your actionable advice? And you could pick from either entrepreneurs or investors or both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all have a responsibility to disrupt stereotypes, and it turns out the very, very narrow stereotypes of who is supposed to be a tech entrepreneur or a technologist don't actually apply to most of us. And so what social science research shows is that more you disrupt these stereotypes, the more people are able to open their aperture. And so we want to really encourage and develop the self-efficacy of people to be entrepreneurs and to be technologists. And that takes every single one of you disrupting stereotypes, telling your own story, going into your kid's classroom to talk about your journey, coming to our campuses, bringing a project, meeting with a student that just got to Silicon Valley and is on the journey you are on. So these acts really, really matter.
Great, thank you. And Debbie, what is your actionable advice?
I would just say, if you're thinking about starting a company, do it. If you have a friend that is a woman founder, support them. If you're an investor, think a little bit more deeply about your portfolio and see if you're investing in women. But just, in general, just kind of be curious and open to other opportunities and support the women that are doing really the hard work. Hardware is hard, medical devices is harder, but we're here and we're doing it. And so we'd love your support.
Thank you. Catherine?
I don't have much to add other than look for a mentor who is interested in your development and growth and is not looking to get something out of you, but really is looking to support you. I think that's where that relationship, a meaningful relationship starts.
Great, thank you. Claire?
This is an advice to investors. So I would say women's health it's not a niche opportunity, but it's a massive opportunity. And so I would encourage you to look into it, study it. Female founders are likely to win in this space because obviously they know what's going on in the women's health space. But also 80% of the health and wellness product and solution purchase decisions are made by female, not just in the US, but universally. And so female entrepreneurs tend to have an intimate understanding of this space. So definitely pay attention to female entrepreneurs as well.
Thank you, Claire. And Ari?
Yeah, for me, this is an advice for everyone who wants to work with founders, be near founders. I would say don't just think of helping a founder as capital. Think of also helping founders as social capital. So everyone here, either through their alumni network, through their current company, through their friends, through their kids' schools, founders are always looking for two things: the next great hire and the next great contract. So next time you meet a female founder, maybe they're not in your thesis, or maybe you're not able to angel invest. Think of what introduction could you potentially offer them, and see if it goes a long way.
Great, thank you very much. And from my perspective, we do pattern recognition based on past data, but in this case, as you can see, we have great women investors, entrepreneurs, and academics that are already in the funnel, and you could ask them what they can do, what's their unique differentiator, and you'll be very happy you did. Thank you so much for coming to this session, and goodbye.
Thank you.